So today, I'd like to thank you, the Professor Kordev and Kashin and Fedor, for your kind invitation. It is my great honor and pleasure to be here. And my topic is the JNET diagnosis and treatment for early colorectal cancer, and including the new entity of serrated adenoma, finally. And this is last year's ES symposium. So I was really happy to be involved in the World Cup endoscopy. Just a fake. And as you know, the image-enhanced endoscopy has been developed at National Cancer Center with collaboration Olympus company. And our big boss, Professor Yoshida and Professor Tajiri, leading this project. And Dr. Sano and Dr. Muto conducted the first-in-human trial using NBI. And now the NBI is commercially available worldwide. And how about the PIT pattern? So the image-enhanced endoscopy is easily used and very helpful. However, we're still using the chromoscopy in routine endoscopy. For example, this small colorectal polyps, 1.5 centimeter in diameter, this area, the yellow dot flat depressed component showing the irregular vessel pattern, irregular PIT pattern, type 5, in demarcated depressed component. So we define this pattern as invasive PIT pattern, and also suggesting some causal invasive cancer. In contrast, the right side of this same polyp, the PIT pattern is type 4, regular PIT pattern, suggesting intramucosal neoplasia. So we never performed the diagnostic endoscopic resection for the invasive pattern regions, and surgery resected specimen revealed the invasive PIT pattern corresponds to the SM deep invasive cancer. And in contrast, the area of non-invasive pattern also corresponds to the intramucosal neoplasia. Now the PIT pattern is almost the optical diagnostic tool. And we conducted the multi-center randomized control trial using web-based endoscopy images using magnified PIT pattern and magnified NBI. In this analysis, PIT pattern was statistically superior to magnified NBI for cancer depth diagnosis. So we could understand still the PIT pattern is the gold standard for the cancer depth diagnosis, even using magnified NBI. And we know that NICE classification is the worldwide very popular. But what's the problem for NICE classification? That is, NICE classification is the classification without magnification. And NICE type 2, including the various neoplastic regions from adenoma to intramucosal cancer and submucosal deeply invasive cancer. For example, how about the depressed regions? NICE classification type 2 or 3? It might be a little bit difficult to diagnose. So, with magnification, we could easily diagnose the irregular vessel pattern, irregular surface pattern. So, this is JNET type 2B, and with chromoscopy, PIT pattern, the nicely type 3S, 3L PIT pattern could be observed. And histology was tubular adenoma, the high-grade ATP. So it is obvious the optical zoom endoscopy will help us to diagnose the histology accurately. Therefore, we have developed the JNET classification using magnified colonoscopy. And this JNET classification is really clinically practical. When we diagnose JNET type 2B with irregular vessel pattern, irregular surface pattern, suggesting high-grade cancer, and we need a PIT pattern diagnosis for the treatment strategy for endoscopic resection or surgery. And the question might be, is JNET classification applicable for the BLI system? But our colleague showed the NBI and BLI could be diagnosed equally. And another group also reported BLI could be evaluated for JNET classification. And JNET type 1 consists of invisible vessel pattern and regular dark or white spots surface pattern, suggesting hyperplastic polyp or SSAP. And usually it is not necessary to resect endoscopically. JNET type 2A consists of regular vessel pattern, regular surface pattern, and suggesting the low-grade intermucosal neoplasia. They usually could be easily treated by polypectomy or EMR. So how about this, the relatively big region, 3 centimeter sessile region in the ascending column? In this case, we are using the Fujiscope system, and the white light image, sessile 3 centimeter region. This is a retroflex position, and LCI revealed the redness is strength, and BLI. And with magnification, we could visualize the regular vessel pattern, regular surface pattern. This is a JNET type 2A, suggesting low-grade intermucosal neoplasia. So we could easily perform chromoscopy and some mucosa injection. The region is lifted very well. And even for the region is more than 3 centimeters in diameter, but it is not necessary to perform ESD. In this kind of case, we could perform this EMR easily. And the patient could go home on the same day. And histopathology revealed the tubular adenoma. The curative resection was achieved. JNET type 2B is clinically really important because of the suspicious for high-grade cancer. And you understand you need a pit pattern diagnosis in addition. For example, this kind of region, there are 2A plus 2C, but with lots of the mucus. But it is important before applying image enhanced endoscopy and chromoscopy, wash away the mucus carefully. And using LCI mode and BLI, and also we could visualize the vessel pattern, surface pattern with optical zoom. And recently, we prefer to use distal attachment because the underwater observation of the magnified vessel pattern, surface pattern, we could get a very detailed, beautiful image. This is underwater observation of the vessel pattern and the surface pattern. And in this case, we diagnose the JNET type 2B consists of irregular vessel pattern, irregular surface pattern. So we further apply the crystal violet staining. And after crystal violet staining, as shown, we could visualize the detailed pit pattern. And pit pattern is type 5I, low irregular. So we diagnosed type 5I, non-invasive pit pattern. And later, in this case, we performed the en-bloc ESD for this case, and histology revealed submucosal superficial invasive cancer, and the curative resection was achieved. And also, this is a cecal LST granular nodular mixed type. NBI revealed the JNET type 2B in the very small focus or redoned area. the pit pattern after crystal wide staining, type 5I, low irregular, in a very small area. The same region in the LCI, BLI, the diagnosis was almost the same. And we performed the ESD for this region using the several safer devices. And our setting is dry cut effect 3, 100 watts for marginal cutting, and spray core effect 2 for submucosal dissection. And this is located in the secant bottom, so we conducted our pocket creation method. First, we performed the marginal resection of the proximal side using the jet bipolar needle knife. And then, after completing the marginal resection of the final endpoint, we start the marginal resection and some causal dissection of the anal side. It is important to conduct the submucosal dissection immediately after partial marginal resection during the submucosal layer lifting is good. And then we continue the pocket creation method using the same bipolar needle knife. By using the pocket creation method, so we could get the very good submucosal lifting during the procedure. And after completing the pocket creation method, we are starting the marginal resection of the gravity side using the IT knife nano. And then finally, we could complete the lateral marginal resection of the right side using the same IT knife nano. Finally, the en bloc resection completed. The histology revealed the well-differentiated adenocarcinoma intramucosal cancer. Curative resection was achieved. How about this, the huge LSTG, the nodule in the center showing JNET type 2B, irregular vessel pattern, irregular surface pattern, suggesting high-grade cancer in this area. But fortunately, pit pattern show type 4 pit pattern, non-invasive, so we could diagnose this lesion as intramucosal or SM1 despite of its huge size. The ESD was conducted using the tunneling method. And en bloc resection was completed, and histology revealed the focal cancer in adenoma. And very interestingly, the area showing JNET type 2B with irregular vessel pattern, irregular surface pattern was corresponds to this, the focal adenocarcinoma in adenoma. So we could understand the JNET classification is correlate really well with the histology. JNET type 3 consists of the loose vessel and interruption of thick vessel and amorphous surface pattern, suggesting submucosal deeply invasive carcinoma. So no indication for endoscopic resection. The surgery is necessary. Now the topic is AI diagnosis, as Professor Tajiri presented. And JNET classification and pit pattern is really helpful for the estimated histology. However, sometimes some cases are really difficult to judge the JNET classification or pit pattern even by an expert. So in such situation, AI is really helpful. Already Professor Tajiri introduced our study. We are collaborating with NEC for the AI software for polyp detections. Like this, even for a small, flat region, this AI software could detect the polyp immediately and correctly. Now, current data showing the very high diagnostic accuracy of sensitivity 98% and specificity 99%, not only for the protruded region, but also for flat type regions. And also, the Professor Tajiri reported the end brain was permitted by PMDA December 2018, and now commercially available in Japan. The Professor Kudo, Mori, Misawa, and also Prof. Inoue developed this end site scope and end brain system. How about this flat region in the ascending colon? The case 1 and case 2 is very similar, even using NBI, endocarma, and pit pattern. Looks similar. The using crystal violet staining, still similar. The pit pattern could be 3H, some serrated lesion diagnosed. But after methylene blue staining, the case 1 showed the nuclei could be, dark nuclei could be diagnosed. But case 2, no nuclei as observed. The histology in the case 1, a traditional serrated adenoma, it's very similar to endocytoscopic image. And in contrast, case 2 diagnosed was SSAP. And also this histological image is almost the same as the endocytoscopic image. And similarly, in left sigmoid colon, this kind of region, flat region, and pit pattern like type 2 or 3H region. How do you diagnose these regions? Hyperplastic polyp or TSA? This histology was unusual adenoma until now. But the feature is just the tumor surface, we could observe serration. And tumor nuclear atypia was most prominent at the basement of the tumor. And discrepancy between the endoscopic images and histopathology. Our pathological colleague, Dr. Sekine, reported the frequent RSPO fusion mutation detected in the colorectal traditional serrated adenoma and also the precursor of TSA. As you know, the typical TSA usually show the two components of the nodular component and flat component. This nodular component showing the type 4H and typical traditional serrated adenoma. But the background of this TSA, the very flat 2A region, it looks like LST, and the pit pattern is similar to type 2 or type 3H with serration. And this region is the precursor of TSA, and the same gene mutation of RSPO fusion was identified. And superficially serrated adenoma as a precursor of TSA usually located in the recto sigmoid colon and very flat region in the beginning. And the pit pattern looks like type 2 or type 3H. So sometimes maybe we overlook this kind of region as just hyperplastic polyp. And JNET classification is now very popular in Japan, but unfortunately, not so popular in the Western countries. So the Professor Tajiri proposed we should start the international collaboration study between ESGE and JGS, i.e. JNET. Now the ESG core member for the i.e. JNET is Evelyn Decker, Prost, and Helmut Messmann, and Terry Ponchon, and Matthew Pierce. We have conducted many discussions between ESGE and JGES until now. And the primary endpoint of JNET was the diagnostic accuracy of JNET when the pathology is regarded as a gold standard. And the secondary endpoint is diagnostic accuracy between ESG members and JGS members. And using the web endoscopic image, the participant will diagnose the JNET type 1 to type 3 with the confidence level. And case selection and website is already completed. Now the online survey is ready to start. Finally, I'd like to show you the hot topic news from our NCCH, the collaboration between NCCH and research centers. We enrolled more than 600 patients who received total colonoscopy at our National Cancer Center. And we studied the metagenome and metabolome analysis in these patients. And very interestingly, the microbiome and metabolome change occur from the very early stage of the development of colorectal cancer, which is possible etiological and diagnostic importance. So maybe in the near future, just checking the metagenome will diagnose the early colorectal cancer or precursor of colorectal tumors. Ladies and gentlemen, JNET type 2B lesion without invasive pattern is good indication for en bloc resection, including EMR and ESD. And AI technology will support the IE diagnosis in the near future, and some superficially serrated adenoma might be a precursor of traditional serrated adenoma, new entity. So we should be a little bit careful for the rectosigmoid. The small region looks like hyperplastic polyp. And finally, JNET is ready to start. And in the AI technology developing, it is necessary to learn the JNET classification or pit pattern classification using these textbooks. Yes, still all responsibility of the diagnosis is on our endoscopist. Thank you very much. Спасибо.